Hello, everyone. I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios just to set the tone for why we're having this conversation today. Zach, how long have you been playing video games? I don't know, maybe an hour. I got back to my room around 2. Zach, it's 8 p.m. and you missed dinner. You've been playing for 6 hours. Oh, well, it was worth it. I hit 1,000 in my overall kills. Now we're going to YouTube. A child, age 12, experiences burns after watching the freezing boiling water challenge. Another child encounters stomach illness after seeing Tide Pod challenge. Broken bones result after watching Kiki challenge, which is when kids dance beside the car as it continues to drive. And stitches result from the Kylie Jenner lip challenge. Let's go to social media. Your teenage daughter posts a picture of herself on top of a cliff in her bikini. Her friends comment, OMG, goals. You're so cute. Gorge. Heart, heart, heart emojis. Kissy, kissy emojis. When your son posts a picture of him in his bathing suit at the top of the same cliff, his friends post, dude, where are you? Sick, bro. Did you jump? Whoa, sweet. Cool view. Now I'm going to tell you a teenage story. This one's a little provocative, so if you have kids in the car, you might want to fast forward it. Your daughter explains this story to you, which goes a little something like this. My friend was going to hook up with this guy, and this guy Snapchatted her and was like, you got a friend who you want to invite so we can make it a threesome? And the girl was like, let me ask around. And then she asked me, and I've always wanted to hook up with this guy. And even though I really didn't want to do a threesome, I figured it wouldn't be that weird. I would still be able to get with the guy. So I said yes. When she told him that I would do it, he told her, ew, go find somebody else. Then she told me what happened. And now I just feel totally rejected, embarrassed, and alone. Tears to follow.
Hello, my name is Mary Neely. I am a tutor, a teacher, a parent, and the founder of Evolved Education Company. We are a full-service tutoring and advisement company for all of your educational solutions. On this podcast, we'll explore ideas, techniques, and resources that you can use to support your school-aged child to conquer any learning issue. I'm so glad you're here.
Today's guest, Brooklyn Raney, author of One Trusted Adult, How to Build Strong Connections and Healthy Boundaries with Young People, says, I imagine young people as having 100 tiny speakers all around their heads like a halo. Messages, often contradictory ones, plummet them all day, confusing them and preventing them from developing a strong sense of self. Every day, they are grappling with the following questions. Who am I? Who do others think I am? Who do others want me to be? Who do I want to be? Who will influence the way young people answer these questions, and how these influencers will make their mark is largely up to us, the trusted adults. I'm so pleased now to introduce Brooklyn Raney, who is an experienced teacher, coach, camp director, and administrator who has spent the last decade in independent schools. Brooklyn is a workshop facilitator, speaker, and consultant for schools, camps, and other youth-serving organizations nationally and internationally. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you, Mary. Very excited to chat with you and be connected with everyone at Evolved.
I'm so pleased to have you here today. And I want to set the purpose for today's podcast for our listeners who are primarily parents of school-age children. So we're going to first just educate parents on why they should really know more about One Trusted Adult. And we'll share some key tools that parents can use right now to open up important conversations with their children, which allows for deeper mentorship within the parenting role. And then we'll tweak this a little bit towards what you can do if you want a little extra support around mentoring. We'll talk about Evolved Education's company's mentoring program using your Ripple journal, which is really the student-facing work that you have. And we will, of course, share how parents can learn more about your work and how they can bring one trusted adult to their schools and their communities. So let's dive right in. I'm so excited to talk with you today about this book. As I told my staff, I went through it and I just connected so much to its message. I started to highlight and tab and post-it notes so many of the different aspects of the book. So I want to share a quote that you have. If you have the book in front of you and you're listening, it's on page 45. You quote Lisa DeMoran saying, "In adolescence, parents go from being the jelly beans to the Brussels sprouts. We might be good for him, but we are not what he wants right now. His drum teacher gets to be the jelly beans, and we are stuck being the Brussels sprouts." I love this line so much because it really resonates with me as someone who's the parent of a teenager right now, and also as someone who's worked with teenagers for all of my career of 25 years or so. So I'm just wondering if you can tell us a little more about the concept of one trusted adult for parents who are just coming in and learning about your work.
Sure. I mean, you're right at the heart of it. You picked the perfect passage, and big credit to Lisa DeMoran for this metaphor, because I think it's absolutely perfect in that young people, the littlest, the toddlers, the elementary, they're given adults, right? They don't have much choice over who they're spending their time with, who they are mirroring and mimicking and learning from. And in those early years, parents are like jelly beans, grandparents are like jelly beans. They are sugar. It's exciting. You know, the kids that wait by the window for their parent to come home from work and like, dad's home, mom's home, freaking out, excited. And something happens. If you are a parent listening who has middle schoolers and high schoolers, they're no longer waiting at the window for you. And as much as you are eager and enthusiastic to continue playing that huge role in their life, it's natural for them to start liberating, for them to start seeking mentorship outside of the home. And it's a painful time. It's a hard time, but it's a reality and something that we can actually maximize and build on in the ways that we surround our middle schoolers and high schoolers with adults who have similar interests and that we know align with our values as parents. So yeah, we run a company called One Trusted Adult, and the book is based on this premise of if every young person on this planet could name one trusted adult at home, one trusted adult outside of the home, we can decrease suicides and depression and substance abuse and all the things that absolutely terrify us as parents. Part of the way that we can prevent those things is actually getting out of the way, recognizing we are now Brussels sprouts and not jelly beans, and encouraging our children to seek mentorship with good, healthy, trusted adults outside the home.
I love that concept so much. And I know it to be true too in my parenting journey. And also, of course, as we tutor students and we get to know them in that capacity in our work, we are always mentoring and sort of connecting, and often I think accidentally becoming really the trusted adult before it had a name that you've given it. But I think it's just such an important piece of the journey of many successful people. So that makes really good sense. There are so many tools that you offer in your book, One Trusted Adult, and it was really hard for me to just narrow down to that I wanted to share with our audience. So I wanted to start with questions, not answers. In your book, you describe Rachel, who's a first-year student who lived in your dorm, and she was eager to make the varsity lacrosse team. And despite the fact that she had had success with athletics, she didn't make the team. And you really wanted to say to her, but you've never played lacrosse and you just think you're supposed to make the team because you've made other teams and you want to be on the team because your best friend is on the team and you just bought a lacrosse stick last week. And just trust me, you'll learn so much from just being on the JV team. You need to take a much, needed breath from all of this and just play without pressure, right? And this is on page 59 for those of you who are reading. So I just wanted to know a little bit more about this lesson and what parents can act upon when thinking about questions, not answers, as a tool.
Yeah, thank you for this question. This is breakthrough stuff here. And I think something we all, we parents get accused of being helicopters and lawnmowers and snowplows and whatever other names they've got for the parents who deeply care about their children and want to make it easier for them. And the thing is, making it easier for them does not make the child any stronger or any better equipped to handle life ahead. We talk a lot about young people as baby birds. They're in the nest. and they're in the egg, they've been born, and the mama bird's just got to watch it break its way out of the shell. And that's got to be painful, right? To just sit there and not help, because you just want to break it open and help the baby bird. But if you do, they actually don't build the muscles in their neck they need to then learn to fly. And so we as parents, I think there's a lot of lessons to learn there as parents in not jumping into fix all the time. We want to be fixers, and our role is not always in fixers, that we've got to empower young people, encourage young people, support young people, our children, as they fix for themselves, but doing it for really doesn't help solve the problem. So one strategy for that is in asking questions rather than providing all the answers all the time. We look to motivational interviewing or restorative justice practices for really great questions. If you're looking for lists of questions, look up those two things, and you'll see great questions to ask young people. And I would say recently we put up a post about exactly this, and a father actually commented and said, I was at one of your trainings and this is the thing I've held on to. And one day when my 16-year-old daughter got home from school and was sobbing because her boyfriend broke up with her, he remembered the training, remembered the book. He said, questions on answers, because dads want to do all kinds of things when, their crying daughter has broken up with the boyfriend. Oh my gosh. And he wants to save the daughter. And he looked at her and he said, do you need my help? Is there something I can do that will make this better? Or do you just want me to listen? And she wiped her tears and she looked at him and she said, you know what? I think I could just really use a hug. And the dad was like, whoa, this is my moment. Like, he gives the hug and he's like, is there anything else I can do? And she's like, no, that's all I needed. And so some of our best parenting is actually coached from the children, but we never give them space. We always jump into fixer mode instead of giving them space to request or asking the question of what do you need? And it takes longer sometimes when asking questions versus giving answers, but it's the absolute best way to teach the lessons. And some of it's absolutely invisible and they don't even know we're doing it, which is the magic of it, that we don't feel like we're advising or counseling or parenting when we're simply asking questions, but it still gets them to that place of understanding and growth.
So magical. I just love the question, not answers. I started experimenting with it a little bit also in my learning specialty work a couple of years ago. And it really is interesting when you pose questions instead of come in and swoop in and give somebody the roadmap you would have taken, right? I think there's always that assumption. I find myself so guilty of that, where I assume the other person's trajectory or I assume the solution. And it really is such a great practice in every way. I think it's just definitely something I took from the book as well. So the other tool I wanted to talk with you about is something that parents can be empowered to watch out for, I think, which is the boundaries that exist between the trusted adults and their children. On page 122 and 123, you compare two letters that students have given you over the time of your career. And one of them, I'm not going to read them all, but in one of them, there were clearly lack of boundaries that were really established in the other letter where boundaries were established. And I'm going to ask, I wonder if you could take some time now just to explain to us how parents can use this other tool called the shoulder test that you mentioned and use it to guide us a little bit about how we can think about boundaries and maybe even establish them for our own selves. Is that sort of also appropriate as another throw-in question from a parenting side of things? What are our boundaries maybe as well? So I'll leave this to you.
Yes. And that's what's so exciting about this work is there's this sort of parallel thing happening where it's all of this being a trusted adult is absolutely relevant to parenting. And then as parents thinking about the other adults that show up for our kids, what are we looking for? And so there's lessons and there's lots to gain in both aspects. And I'm going to, before I answer the shoulder test question, we've now shifted to this, what we believe is most important is common language between the adults and the parents and the children. That we've got to create language that we use often, that is mutually understood. So we know what we're talking about when we talk about trust, for instance, like what is trust? And we've created something called the ABCs. And really, these are the critical qualities that we are seeing in what it means to be a trusted adult. And it's accessible, it's boundaried, and it's caring. And I like to overlap those in three circles because accessible, kids will define as present, available, not on a screen or on the phone, that they're actually, when they're in presence with an adult, that they're actually there. The adult is there, speaking, engaging. Caring is an investment in well-being. We get this, right? Caregiving. But the boundary that overlays the A and the C is what's crucial, because I can be accessible to a fault and I can be caring to the fault, like setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. Like, we can care so hard that we forget to take care of ourselves, which really doesn't help us care for anyone else, but it can look like full accessibility, full care. So the boundary sets the limit on that, the healthy limit on that. And so it's really in the overlap of those qualities where trust is built and burnout is beat as a parent, as an educator, as a youth serving professional, as a tutor, in any of these roles, with the ABCs live. So it's important for, as parents, we're looking for the ABCs in the other adults we invite into our children's lives, and we're talking to young people about those ABCs. One way we found it's effective is actually naming them and labeling them with characters in movies or television shows. We've had epic battles between whether Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid better lives out the ABCs than Dumbledore from Harry Potter. And we apply this model to characters we know from movies and shows that sort of live that mentor, teacher, or parenting role. The shoulder test is something we share with educators and youth serving professionals, and it's kind of a staple when you're being trained as an educator. The shoulder test is really that when you're interacting with a young person, imagine that your supervisor is on one shoulder and the parent of the child are on the other. Would they approve and be okay with how you're talking to the child, what you're saying to the child, how you're standing, your body language, your dress, all of it? Would everyone be okay with this? And that's just, a barometer to check in with self on how is this interaction going. In today's world, we say you can add cell phone footage and security cameras and maybe even slap a GoPro on the kid's head, because it's likely you're probably being filmed in one way or another, like it or not. But the question really becomes, would we be okay with this moment going viral? And so the shoulder test is something that, again, we talk to most adults who work with other people's children about how they interact, but it's certainly something parents could be thinking about as they interact with their own children and as they interact with their children's friends, or if they're coaching a little league team, or in any way that they're showing up with other children. It's just a gut check.
That is exactly it. I think it's so valuable to talk about the boundaries. I'm so glad you're doing more work on that. And the common language seems like it would be extremely helpful and important, just to be very clear and transparent with everyone around what you're actually talking about. And I think it just helps us to all level ourselves up and reach that level of potential around employing those boundaries, right? So, there's just so much value in the book that you've written. And just to remind everyone, we're talking about the book, One Trusted Adult, How to Build Strong Connections and Healthy Boundaries with Young People. And I bought this, and then I also bought your Ripple Journal, which is, I know, something that is a companion really in an effort to work students through the work of being more aware of their own personal selves, but also their groups that they're within, both their immediate group, but also their larger communities. And I wanted just to take an opportunity to share that we were inspired as tutors to enact a service within our company to help kids have the time and the coaching around filling out this Ripple Journal. So one of our teachers here is meeting with students right now, and they are just talking through some of those good questions that you provide in that Ripple Journal to allow students to think about the decisions they might be making, the people they're surrounding themselves with, the activities that they're engaged in, and just giving them time to process and think about these things is, I think, of utmost value, especially within that one trusted adult relationship. So I just wanted to share that with our audience and with you as well. And if you want to also just share a little bit about the Ripple Journal, and also I know you guys have plans to expand that into different areas too. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go into the larger set of your work too.
Sure. So for the past few years, I've been traveling and working with schools or Zooming from room to room and engaging with educators, parents, youth serving professionals. And what I'm finding is really that adults can go 50% of the way, maybe 51. But a young person has to choose to come the other half of the way. Like, we can really only do so much. And then there's got to be education on the other side for young people on why building relationships with adults matters, why growing your network and seeking mentors for skill building, and for someone to rely on and to share a worry or concern, but also to have someone to be proud of or to share a disappointment with. We've got to talk to them about all that. And I really believe in the ability to contribute being like the highest youth need that we can, as trusted adults, can set up spaces for young people to get met. When they feel needed, there's a big difference in how they show up and how they engage and what choices they make, risky or not risky. If they're feeling needed over here at football practice or soccer or at the tutoring company or mowing lawns or babysitting or whatever it is we need their help with, they're going to avoid some choices they could have made to fill their time in other ways and show up with us in a healthier way. And so I really believe in building personal skills for community contribution and community leadership as being a really big prevention tool, again, to all the things that we are totally afraid of as parents. So the journal was born out of that, a way to connect trusted adults to young people, to engage in exercises together, but also I call it a leader log, a wellness workbook, a connection curriculum. And we operate on the Ripple framework because it asks us to explore our solo circle, like who we are, what are our strengths, what are our needs, what are our passions. The inner circle is all about friendships, our families, our close inner circle, and then the outer circle, what impact can I make in the greater community and the world? And the first one has come out. There's 3 more that are rolling out. And our big push is for adults not to do this for young people, not to facilitate it for them, but to really do it with them. And that with word is key in building trust, in building connection, and making the most of every moment we've got with a young person.
It's just really, really powerful to have the curriculum to be able to have those kinds of conversations that really elicit the trust and elicit the bonds, elicit the engagement and connection, because that's really, in my experience, what I've been working on them with my children, actually. And I find it really empowers us to have very powerful conversations. And I have this saying with a lot of my teenagers when I work with them, and I usually leave calls by saying, make good decisions. I'm always kind of championing them with that. And I think that's great advice and it's a great mantra, but I do feel like the book actually anchors kids in more concrete ways of making those good decisions, right? And I think we as parents have a lot of cliche sayings. Well, if the kids are engaged, if they're busy, if they're in a sport, if they're in a school where there's a strong community, everything will be fine. And I think that's sort of somewhat true, but I think it's also just important that your kid really has a strong understanding of themselves as human and their own value in the world, so that they can also have those opportunities to connect within their inner and outer circle too. Yes. So it's pretty fun to see that work. And I just love the curriculum so much. So thank you for making it. So we're just so excited about the work, and I really appreciate you being here today. I wanted also for you to speak with our audience, because these are all parents of school-age children. And I wanted you to be able to share a little bit more about your work. And if there is an opportunity for a parent to alert their schools and organizations about your work. I know you do workshops for teachers and coaches, and I wanted to just have you share a little bit about that too.
Thank you. Thanks for that opportunity. And I think the 2 lasting tips for parents right now that I would share, I already mentioned Dumbledore and Mr. Miyagi and going through TV and movies, but one is tell them about your trusted adults, if you had them or if you didn't have them, or what you wished you had in trusted adults. Be open to sharing with your kids who showed up for you when you were their age. What mentor showed up? Was it extended family? Was it a bus driver, a crossing guard, a piano teacher? We've heard about so many people. And then go back and thank those people if they're still around, or thank their children if they've passed or whatever's happened. Go back and thank them, because we've got to put fuel in the tanks of trusted adults so they keep showing up for young people, especially during these trying years of a pandemic. And the other is, when you're filling out those emergency contact forms for school, tell your children who you write down as their emergency contacts. This is just one tiny little way into a conversation about who they can trust. So especially with the youngers, you are signaling in that moment that these are adults that we trust and we hope you trust too. And in a week, We'd love for you to come back and tell us who your trusted adult is at school, because that's someone you get to choose and you get to tell us about. So those are just little ways into really important conversations. But as far as staying in touch with our organization or making some magic happen at your school, definitely visit our website, sign up for our newsletter, follow us on Instagram, One Trusted Adult. And we're sending out ongoing tips and tools, little videos, little clips. Check it out. And then, yes, if your PTA is interested, we have something called Operation OTA, which is an evaluation system for schools. We work with guidance counselors to run a survey and curriculum within schools to bridge that language and ensure every child at school can name a trusted adult. And like Mary said, Ripple journals, and we have youth professional trainings, parent trainings, educator trainings, you name it. So definitely be in touch with us.
Amazing. I'm just so pleased that we were able to find time to chat. And I'm so excited for our parents to learn about this as well. So you can find more information about Evolved Education Company and our work, as well as just other information about this podcast at evolveded.com. Thanks again, Brooklyn, for being here. And
Mary, thank you. Make good decisions, Mary. Make good decisions.
I'm doing it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Evolved Education. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and write a review. You can send us any and all educational questions to hello@evolveded.com, and we'll try to address it in our upcoming episodes. That's Evolved Ed, EVOLVEDED.com. To learn more about how we can support you, go to evolveded.com and book a complimentary 15-minute phone call with us. Are you a professional educator? You can join our teaching school membership platform to gain support and engage in a community interested in learning together. Click on the link in our show notes to learn more.